welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you so much for tapping on this video. Today I'm going to be sharing with you on how to draft a basic sleeve pattern. Very simple, very easy, and straight to the point. Okay, so what are we waiting for? Nothing. Let's get right into the tutorial.
So dear friends, the first thing you need to do is to get your pattern paper and then fold it into two. Now I'm going to be picking a side and I'm going to be drawing a straight line there, and this straight line serves as my shoulder line. So I'm going to be taking out all my measurements from this line. Now the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to measure from that shoulder line. I'm going to come down by my bicep length, which is 5 inches. That means from my shoulder down to my bicep, 5 inches, and then down to my elbow, 12 inches, and then down to my wrist, which is 18 inches. This sleeve is a long sleeve. Now I'm going to repeat that same measurement here again. My bicep 5 inches, my elbow 12 inches, and then my wrist 18 inches. Now I'm going to be making out all these points into a straight line. Now after making them into a straight line, then we have to label them. So the shoulder line, bicep line, elbow line, and then the sleeve line. Now the next thing we're going to do is to put in all our circumference. So now we are going to be dividing all our circumference into two. So for the bicep, how to measure the circumference is to measure the round bicep. For the elbow as well, you make sure that your hand is folded this way, and then you measure the round, and then for your wrist as well, you measure it round. So that is the circumference. So for me, my own bicep is 12.5. So I'm going to divide that by 2. That gives me 6.25. So on this bicep line, I am going to be measuring my 6.25. So I'm going to place my tape from the tip here, and then I'm going to measure out 6.25, and then I mark it. Then for my elbow is 11.5 divided by 2. That gives me 5.25. And then I'm going to mark out my 5.25. Down to my wrist, it's 9 divided by 2. That gives me 4. Now I'm going to measure out my 4. And then I'm going to be connecting all these marks that I have here to form a straight line or a semi-straight line. If yours do not give you a straight line like this, do not worry. Just make sure that you are using the correct measurement, and that is all that matters. Now from my bicep line down to the shoulder line, I'm going to connect that as well with a straight roll to form an horizontal line. So after connecting, this is what I have. Now I am going to measure this line that I have just drawn, and when I measured it, what I have 8 inches for this line. Now I am going to mark the midpoint of this 8 inches, which is 4. I'm going to mark it. Now I am going to mark the half of this 4 inches, which gives me 2. Now I'm going to mark the second half as well, and I'm going to mark the midpoint, so that's 2 also. Now on this marks that I have, I am going to come up by half of an inch for this first half mark. I'm going to come up by half of an inch here, and then for the second half here, I'm going to come down by half of an inch as well. Now I'm going to be using my straight rule to make these lines visible. Now I'm going to do the same for this side as well. Now what I'm going to be doing next is I'm going to connect those lines together with a curved rule. So I'm going to be connecting from here down to here and then down to here. Okay, So but let's label it first. That's 1, this is 2, this is 3, and then this is 4. Now I am going to be connecting point 1 to point 2 with a curved row, and then I'm going to connect this way. Now after connecting point 1 to point 2, I'll have to connect point 2 to the midpoint here. Okay, so and I'm going to be doing that with a straight row. So I'll connect point 2 to the midpoint using a straight row like this. Now we have completed the first half segment. Now we're moving on to the second half, which is we're going to connect the midpoint to point 3 and then to point 4 with also a curved row. And this is how I am going to be connecting these points together, as you can see. So dear friends, we are halfway done, and you can see how I connected point 1 to point 2 using a curved row, point 2 to the midpoint using a straight row, and then from the midpoint to point 3, point 4 with a curved row. Now we are halfway done, and I am going to be showing you how to cut out for the front and the back. Now I am going to be indicating which line is for the front and which line is for the back, which means that which line are you going to attach to your front bodies, and then the line you are going to attach to your back bodies. So you can see that I traced it out with a marker so that all the lines can be very visible to you. Now I am going to be cutting this out so that we can be left with only this bicep to the shoulder line curve for us to trace out our front and our back. So now here I am going to be cutting out from this straight line first. I'm going to cut it out, then I'm going to connect it to this line 2 and then connect it to this point 1. Okay, so you can see that is a straight line connecting to point 2 and then connecting to point 1. Now for the second part, I'm going to be cutting out point 3 to 4, and then I'm going to connect it to this point 2, as you can see. Okay, so you can see that we have two different shapes here. So for the first part, you can see I used a blue marker to mark that out, and then for the other part I used a green marker to mark that out so that you can clearly see the difference. Now here where I have the blue marker, that is the back. That is where you're going to attach to your back bodies, and then the other side with the green marker, that is the front part, and you're going to be attaching that part to the front of your bodies. So you can see that from the midpoint here, it comes down with a curve and then it comes out with a straight line. But for the other side here, which is the front, it comes down with a curve and then comes down even deeper with a deeper curve, and then from point 3 it comes out with a straight line. So that is how the front part is going to look like, and this is how the back part is going to look like. Okay, so that when you attach this sleeve to your bodies, you know, it gives you a perfect shape. So now what I'm just going to do is, so as you can see here, that is showing very clearly that the back and the front cutting, they are different and they have to be different. Okay, the cutting has to be different because this is how to make your sleeve pattern so that it can perfectly lay on your bodies. Okay, the front has to come in by half of an inch, and then for the back it will not come in by half of an inch. All right, it's going to come out straight just like this. Okay, so this is a perfect way of drafting your basic pattern. Now what you're just going to do next is to place this on your main fabric, and then you are going to be cutting it out. Then you'll add whatever allowance you want to add to your main fabric. So this also applies for the short sleeve. If you are making a basic pattern for your short sleeve, this is the same way to do it. The only difference is it's going to be stopping either on your elbow line, or it depends on the length you want.
And this brings us to the end of this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks a lot, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. And are you subscribed? If you're not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Please click on the subscribe button down below to be a member of this channel. Thank you so much. Until I see you in my next one, have a great day. Bye.